Today, I want to focus on how to improve mental health self-care. I came up with this lesson a few months ago on the anniversary of my younger brother's suicide. I was asked to speak to a group of people that were struggling with mental health, so I came up with this lesson I'm sharing with you today. Welcome to the live broadcast, or if you're watching on the replay, I appreciate you being here. Maybe comment below where you're watching from. If you're just meeting me for the first time, I'm Hugh, founder and author of Trial Tappers. Who are Trial Tappers? People that find hope, resilience, and post-traumatic growth after life's trials and traumas. So today's lesson, I'm going to use a visual analogy. I like to teach in pictures because I think it's easier to remember. So I had this image created, which shows a man on the shore looking out over the ocean at an old sailing ship. So the concept here is, as he's looking over the shore, is he able to see over the horizon, and what is he looking out for? Is he looking for storms or for positive things in the future? So any good sailor is going to have a telescope, right? And so I've asked people that I teach, well, what's he looking out for? He's just out in the ocean. So some will tell me he's looking for sharks. Some will say he's looking for land. Others will say he's looking for pirates or storms, maybe some safe harbor. So I like to teach him by using this visual analogy of a telescope, because the concept today I want to talk about as we're looking at our mental health is that you need to focus in, because on what you focus in on will expand, good or bad. So we're going to look and focus in on our self-care. So today, the word focus, I created acronyms or memory aids for each letter in the word focus. So the first letter in the word focus is F. And so I believe you need to focus in on your family and friends. Now, I work with a lot of people that are struggling. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I probably should put in my disclaimer that this is not medical advice or therapy. So we're talking about, when I see people coming in talking about struggles they're having with family or friends, I'll have them focus in on identifying the family members and deciding which family members are there to help them, and unfortunately, which family members aren't so helpful. And it's sad to say that sometimes I find that there are family members you need to separate from, and some you need to gravitate and move closer towards. So when we're trying to work on repairing relationships with family, we'll talk about what we can do to improve that and where there may be danger signs. One example I had was a family member told me they were upset with their child because they got arrested and they posted bail to get him out of jail. And the son bailed or ran. And so he wasn't able to refinance his home when the interest rates were low because there was a lien on his home. So there was relationships that needed to be repaired there. And then some people come from all kinds of sorts of families that maybe weren't helpful or maybe even hurtful when they were growing up. Another concept is focusing on your friends. So when I help people identify who are their friends, most people can only identify 2 or 3 really close friends, and then there's those extended family and our friends out there. So from the friends, we actually start identifying which ones are friends and which ones are frenemies, right? Which ones may be pulling you down. As you focus in on what they're doing for you, then you might be able to identify and figure out which ones you need to let go and which ones you can gravitate towards. It's not uncommon that people struggle that they don't have enough friends, and so I'll ask them to start trying to find, new places to engage with old friends, Facebook friends, finding new groups to hang out with. So, where can you find positive friends? Often we'll talk about gyms, clubs, sometimes religious groups, just reconnecting and finding sporting teams or other people that you can join to find positive friends. Now, another thing we need to focus in on is identifying, where are you in that friendship relationship? So what are you doing to help or improve on that? So the challenge I often ask is, how can you improve on your family relationships? Maybe you can contact them more, call them more. Maybe you can send them texts. Maybe show up to family events more. Just engage with your family, especially if you've been estranged from them. And where you can find your friends, often ask people to come up with a list of places to do that. So that'd be my challenge for you to maybe comment below, where's a place that you found new groups of friends. So the next one I want to talk about is, in the word focus, is the letter O, observable behaviors. So what is an observable behavior? So when I look at an 8-year-old, when I ask sometimes 8-year-olds, what do you see people doing? If they were to identify and tell me, what do? You've said you want to engage with family. You say you want to be a good friend. What can an 8-year-old tell me they see, right? So what do they notice? Do they notice you come to family events? Do they notice you don't? Do they notice you come late, come early? Do you not engage with family members? I mean, what can you do to re-engage and connect that family relationship to make amends? And then when we talk about, friends, what do they do? You can narrow this down all the way down to, coworkers. What do people see you doing? So how would they describe you? Now, when I work with people that are dealing with addictions, it gets a little bit simpler, because they'll tell me things like, well, I'm not using drugs. And I'll say, what's the difference between being clean and sober? Now, a lot of them will say, well, clean means I'm passing drug tests. My employer sees that I'm passing a drug test, so forth. And then I'll say, well, what is the definition of sober? And to me, of sober mind, sober behaviors, right? What do you do that look like you got things under control? So it's not uncommon that, I can ask those type of behaviors of, does somebody that's sober keep changing jobs all the time? Or they keep losing friends? Or they keep bouncing from house to house? What is it that their behaviors are demonstrating they're not really sober? They aren't making good decisions. So what other positive actions do people see you doing? So like as an employer, do they see you coming on time or early to work and leaving late, staying and doing extra duties? Or they see you calling in sick all the time, coming late, leaving early? So, right, those positive things that people see you doing. So the next letter in the word focus, I say, is the control. Focus on what you can control. So let's talk about this. I got next up there. So focusing on you can control. A lot of people that come in and struggle with other things that are happening to them. And they're trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong and how can I improve things? And one of the first things I'll start identifying is, what can you not control, right? What is out of your control? So you can't control, for example, the weather. You can't control the economy. You can't control what other people do or what other people think about you, right? You need to put that aside and focus on what you can control. You can control if you come to family event. You can control when you go to work, right? You can control what you say or do. You can control the type of friend that you're going to be, to support and be there, not draining from them, but giving to them, right? You can control your behavior and your actions at family events. So focus on those things that you can control. The next one I want to talk about is pretty important. We talk about, and the word focus is the letter U, which is being upbeat or positive. Now, this isn't just being optimistic, right? This is how to find the positives in your day. Again, when I talk about this earlier, what you focus on is going to expand. So if you're focusing in on negative things, that's what you're going to find. If you're focusing in on the positive things during the day, that's what I want you to look at. So think of, there's a lot of research that we found about um, many studies showing that if people can do a type of a gratitude journal, uh, identifying positive things they do each day. So often I'll ask people to like write down in a journal 3 things that happen positive during the day. I'll have them set an alarm. I'll have them just type it in their phone, nothing long, 3, 4, 5 words explaining what was positive and optimistic. And what the research is clear that if you do this for like 6 weeks, the general mood of most people will be uplifting and improve, and it can last up to 6 months. So you just have to be very clear on how you're using these words and what you write down, because you can write a positive and a negative in the same term, which isn't going to help. For example, you can say, I'm glad my boss didn't yell at me. Positive and a negative, it cancels itself out, right? So you need to identify things like, I'm grateful for the time I spent with my kids today. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for my health. Identifying positive things. Now, this also is helpful when I'm working with parents and their kids, right? You may not want to change the words you say at the end of the day. Instead of saying, well, how was your day? And they give you the typical fine. Or you say, what was one good thing that happened today, right? Refocusing and changing in on what they're looking at for the future. So that'll be my challenge for you to do, is identify each day 3 positive things about your day. So again, what you focus on expands. So let's look at the good. Okay. Now, the last letter in the word focus, I call it's important. It's the letter S for safety. And why I decided that is because I see a lot of people struggling, and I think a lot of them know where they struggle and what is going on, and they can help other people help them, but they have to identify it. So they have to write a few things down. So when I talk about safety, I want people to break down what is going on and focusing on their life and where they may be struggling. So I often ask people, what's your safety plan? Now, this isn't a strict safety plan that some people will talk about in therapy, but it's a general safety plan that I'll ask people to help me identify and help them identify it as they write things down. So I ask them to write down some things, because just explaining it to someone, they're not going to remember it, but I want you to identify by writing down. So I say, well, what are your warning signs that things aren't going so well? When people come in to see me, it's like, well, why are you seeing me? What's happening? They can tell me a lot of physical reactions that are going on, or things that are going wrong in their families or in their jobs. And so what are the warning signs that things aren't going so well for you? And then if you can identify those things, sometimes people say they're crying or they're depressed, they won't get out of bed. Then I'll say, well, what helps, right? So what improves those things? And so they could say, well, going out in nature on a walk, or going to a gym, or calling a friend. And so, of course, we want to identify those things and write those things down. And so I ask people to identify where there's risks, where there's things that are going wrong, what will improve those things, and then who's the safety plan to help them. Because these are a lot of times observable behaviors that are happening, and other people can see, family and friends can see what's going on, and you can help and teach them and educate them. Now, finally, if it's extreme, and if you're having any troubles right now with suicidal thoughts or depression, obviously I want you to go get help. Call 911 or get to the hospital or a police station, call your therapist. Like, if you're struggling with those things now, or you see other people, observing other people doing those things, then I want you to go get help for you or them. So who do you call for help? So one of the key things I ask people to do is, once we write these things down, I want you to share them with other people, your partners, your family members, your friends. Say, hey, if I'm doing these things, you're noticing and observable things, then these are things that you can do to help me. Take me to lunch, take me camping, take me for a walk. Now, I can't go on without talking about safety and your self-care if I don't talk about children. And why I say that is because I worked a lot of years with domestic violence and working with victims. Often I'll identify, well, who are you bringing in to your relationships and how they're interacting with your children? Is it safe for your children? So I need you to pay attention to that and focus in on that person's actions in relation to your children. And then finally, with associates, your friends, your family, those general people maybe that you're bringing in. Sometimes the associates out there aren't looking out for your best interests. So you need to pay attention on the safety. If they're pulling me down or asking me to do things that I know are not helpful for me, I need to avoid them. So one thing I want to ask you right now is, so what's one of your aha moments from today? If you want to comment below, that would be awesome. But ultimately, I share this lesson with you in summary. I want you to think about simply the word focus. Every letter, the letter F stands for family and friends. Focus in on your O, observable behaviors. Focus in on the C, the control, what you control. Focus on the U, being upbeat and positive. And focus on the safety that you have. So finally, I need you to focus in on you, right? That is the most important part. If you're not familiar, I do have a website and I have a channel that you can watch other videos. I hope you enjoyed what I taught you today and hope you share it with someone else. Like if you like this and subscribe, and hopefully I see you in the next time. Thanks for being here.